Resurrect the Republic, Truth Radio broadcast on RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, welcome. Resurrect the Republic, Truth Radio broadcast on RBN. Tonight, Adask, a gentleman who was the target of what I consider to be a 60 Minutes hit piece. I think that's exactly appropriate. And I wanted to start off this broadcast by really kind of just speaking to that just for a second. Welcome to the show, Al. It's a pleasure to have you finally.
Thank you, Tom.
You know, one of the things I wanted to get into was this misrepresentation of sovereignty as opposed to this oxymoron that they try and label people who are pro-sovereignty, pro-constitution, pro-Christian as sovereign, so-called citizen, the oxymoronic term I consider, because you really can't stand in both, in my opinion. But 60 Minutes did a piece on you, and what I wanted to share with my audience first, I'm sending this over to you now, my producer Mike, to add to the description of this program, which is something that I came in and watched a few months back called the 60 Minutes Deception. And this was in regards to the investigative reporter who covered the Vince Foster murder and his presentation on 60 Minutes to show people how 60 Minutes misrepresents people. We've heard people refer to you as the sovereign citizen guru. They try and use this terminology to discredit what I believe is a fundamentally historically accurate message of who we are. Because if you don't know who you are, then it's really you've lost the battle. But if you could, sir, if you could speak to us as what the difference is between the sovereign and the so-called smear term that they like to use us with, and what sovereignty is really about.
Well, most people don't understand this concept of sovereignty. There's a bunch of people who claim to be sovereigns, all right, and a lot of them can't spell the word. They think it's a get-out-of-jail-free card, and it's not. In fact, if everyone in the country fully understood the concept of sovereignty, not everyone would want it, because it really makes you have to be responsible. When you're going to be a sovereign, you're going to be independent. Means you can't be taking any money from the government. You got to support yourself. You have to be self-reliant. All right. But the main thing about sovereignty is this: where does sovereignty come from? Were we just disconnected?
No, I'm here. Sovereignty comes from God.
That's right.
Yeah.
And where do we get it in this country?
A Declaration of Independence.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's the second sentence in the Declaration of Independence. It's the single most radical statement in Western political history. Marx was a punk compared to what you get out of the Declaration of Independence. It was. What does that signal? When they say when the Declaration of Independence says you get your rights, all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator. That means as an attribute of their creation, they get the unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's coming from God.
Yes.
You understand? Who had the rights from God previously?
Divine right of kings, popes. Yep.
Kings, yes, primarily kings. King Richard, or King John, King George, King whoever in England, the other kings in the Holy Roman Empire, blah, blah. They got their right. They had the divine right of kings. They got their rights from God. That's what made them sovereigns. That's what made them kings. When they came along, but there was only one man in the whole country that got his rights from God, and that was King George, King John, whoever. He got his rights. He wasn't elected. He wasn't appointed. He went through a coronation in a church ceremony. All right? He got his rights from God. All else were subjects because they did not get their rights from God. He alone had the divine right of kings. When the Declaration of Independence said, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are all endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, they elevated everyone in this country to the status of sovereign. Instead of having one sovereign in this country, or the king, we had a nation of sovereigns, and you can see it in Chisholm versus Georgia, 1793 Supreme Court case. The Supreme Court says in part that this country is composed of sovereigns, plural, without subjects. There were no subjects. It was a revolutionary form of government that had never been tried before. Closest we've seen anything to it was the era of judges in the Old Testament. The Jews never believed that all men were created equal and they were all endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, but they at least believed they were.
Yeah.
They got their rights from God, and they lived in the era of judges. But later on, they said, "No, we want a king like everybody else."
Yeah.
And God warned them.
He warned them.
2 Samuel says, "You'll be sorry."
Yeah.
He's going to take your scullery maids. He's going to take your daughters and use them as scullery maids. He's going to take your sons and march them off to war. He's going to take your vineyard. You'll be sorry. Oh, no. We want one king.
Mm-hmm.
All right? It's the essence of sovereignty. There's three fundamental forms of government. A monarchy, one man is sovereign. An aristocracy, a limited group is sovereign. And a republic, all people are sovereign, but there's a question with the republic. Are they sovereign as individual men and women, or are they sovereign as a collective? You can see former Soviet Union of Soviet Socialistic Republics. They were a republic. They were communist, but they were a republic. Democracy is a republic, but it's not the Republican form of government that's guaranteed in the Constitution. The democracy is another collectivist form of government. The collective is the sovereign, as opposed to you're a sovereign, I'm a sovereign, everyone listening to the program is sovereigns. Yes. Government wants no point of this third sentence of the Declaration of Independence says, second sentence, I already quoted it to you, but it says we get our most important rights from God, and we get an equal endowment. We have just as many of those God-given unalienable rights as King John, King George, King whoever. We were sovereigns. Third sentence of the Declaration says that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. When they say to secure these rights, they are talking about the God-given unalienable rights in the previous sentence and the second sentence. They're telling us that the fundamental business of government, the primary purpose of government as envisioned by the Founding Fathers, was to secure to every man, woman, and even unborn child their God-given unalienable rights to life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, and others. But those were the three that were mentioned. That's one of the interesting things about this. You read the 14th Amendment. 14th Amendment says all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. The civil rights don't kick in until you are born. All persons born or naturalized in the United States are citizens of the United States, so on. Those rights don't kick in until you are born. You have to be completely removed from the birth canal, separated from your mother. Okay, you've been born. Now you get civil rights. When we're talking about the God-given unalienable rights, they're an attribute of your creation. They are there no later than the moment of conception. It means that under the Declaration of Independence and the idea that we get our rights from God, I'm losing my place here for a second.
No. You're actually in a good place because I've long said the 14th Amendment empowers abortion.
Absolutely. And the Declaration of Independence says no. All men are created equal. They are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, among which is the right to life.
Yes.
It's just an attribute of your creation, and my point is your creation is no later than the moment of conception in the womb. Absolutely. Under the Declaration of Independence, there's no abortion. Under the 14th Amendment, there is. You're not a real person until you've been exited mommy's womb.
You know, I think that that's very interesting, considering the fact that it was that they had to force it by gangsterism. It was never really lawfully ratified. Professor Thomas Woods illustrates this perfectly. We shared a little clip of his, and of course, many of our listeners know from Bruce Ray Riggs and my research into the 14th Amendment that all kinds of skullduggery and very evil measures were used, kidnapping, coercion, force, to bring about the 14th Amendment. And supposedly to set people free. Did no such thing.
No, it did no such thing.
A massive genocide of abortion. How many babies now from the time of Roe v. Wade? How many babies murdered?
60, 70 million, something like
that. Satanic.
And they have, without those children that we've aborted, who's going to mow our lawns? How about the illegal aliens?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one of the reasons we need cheap labor in this country is we have killed off tens of millions of our own children. And so now we're bringing in people from Mexico and from wherever. They're making up for the children we killed. I guess there's a price to be paid for that, and God help us all. I mean, that's going to be something we're going to have. A good thing I'm not God, because I wouldn't have put up with it.
Well,
you'd have seen lightning flying through the air like nothing the world has ever seen before.
I don't question it, because we ultimately I think that there's a longer, deeper plan than we can probably fathom.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, it's one of the things. We're going to go through a difficult time.
Mm-hmm.
If the Bible is true, and if we're in end times, and I'm inclined to believe we're approaching it, there's going to be a time of tribulation. And a lot of the work that we're doing right now is not going to withstand the force of that tribulation. A lot of the things we're trying to do. But nevertheless, for me, what resonates in the Bible is those who stand firm to the end shall be saved.
Yes.
My business is not to win. My business is to stand firm till the end.
That right there, I think what you just illustrated right there is a very important point, especially among the conservative community who believe that we need to win. We need to win. And that's not the goal if you're a Christian. That is not the purpose. The purpose is to stand in honor. Till the end, stand in honor.
Yeah, those who stand firm to the end shall be saved. It's another thing about that verse. I mean, I'm not sure. That verse just happens to resonate with me. But it's the sort of thing, it's a great one, but, it casts some doubt on the idea of, what do they call it when people are going to be zoomed up into the clouds and whatever?
Oh, the rapture?
Rapture. I know it's... Getting old here, and I can't remember my words the same way I did a few years ago. But the rapture does not include people who are going to stand firm to the end.
Right.
It says the people are going to be raptured. They don't have to stand firm to the end. They're going to be taken away. Well, I wonder about that.
Yeah, taken away by whom?
Well, but who knows? Maybe the Attorney General. I'm not sure. But that's not the point.
Right.
The point is, there are a lot of people who think they are already saved, and maybe they are. I hope they are. But if the verse in the Bible says, "Those who stand firm to the end shall be saved," implies that none of us are going to be saved until after the end. And it may be talking about the end of our particular lives or the end of the tribulation or who knows what, but not until after the end. After the end, you shall be saved. There's a dangerous, to my mind, there's a dangerous belief that a lot of people, I'm already saved. I'm not, if that verse in the Bible is true, and it applies to everyone, I just don't see that salvation is already here. I think if those who stand firm to the end shall be saved, then you got to keep. You have work to do. So you can't just kick back and say, "Got it, I'm all."
Right. There are many interpretations of that.
Absolutely.
I've gone to Baptist churches like Stephen Anderson's in Tempe, Arizona, and They firmly believe that if you truly in true heart ask Jesus Christ to come into you. But see, this is biblical for a reason. I believe in the Bible as a tenet for a reason, because once somebody makes that obligation, they set themselves onto a path, in my opinion, of a better way of life. And I think that is so essential to the establishment of a moral compass. So, I think sometimes we can split hairs on it, on doctrinal beliefs, but I do believe that if you accept these things and you accept the teachings of Jesus Christ, you're accepting the moral tenet that goes along with the faith. And I understand kind of both interpretations in a way, but more, really more importantly for what we're talking about, I think that, standing in a firm moral compass, I mean, these things are not difficult to understand. Thou shalt not murder, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. I mean, these are fundamental moral tenets that are not only godly, they're common sense. And I don't know, because I'm not an animal, which is going to be or something else we're going to get into soon. Because I'm not an animal, that's what separates. It's supposed to separate us from the animal kingdom, isn't it?
Well,
we're created in His image.
That's right. We alone are created in God's image. Genesis 1:26 through 28. On the sixth day, God created man in His image, in God's image, and gave man dominion over the animals. If I am a created man, and I am a Christian or a Jew, and I can reference back, I can claim that principle that we find in Genesis 1:26 through 28. On the sixth day, God created man in God's image. In His image is what it says, meaning God's, and gave man dominion over the animals. If I have dominion over animals, I can't be an animal. He didn't give dominion of the animals over the animals. He is distinguishing people from animals. And it flows from the idea that you're made in God's image. That's a distinction. And a lot of people say, oh, that's just silliness. Listen, those of you who believe in evolution don't have any good reason why I shouldn't shoot you. All right? I sit back and said, well, why shouldn't I shoot? Well, he might be a faster draw than I am. He might be a better shot. But there's no moral reason in evolution. So, well, these people are more special than chimpanzees or monkeys or something, because when we can't shoot people because they're a higher form of primate. There's nothing to say murder is wrong in the theory of evolution. It's not encouraged, but we see it in other species. So what I'm just trying to get to is the idea that Genesis 9:6 tells you why you can't murder a man. Because he's made in God's image. Huh? Yeah. Well, that's not applicable to a man who's evolved. That's applicable to a man who is created. What kind of man are you? What kind of woman are any of the people listening to the program? Are you created or are you evolved? If you're a created man, you're made in God's image. If you're an evolved man, you're an animal. And this is no small thing. We talk about, this is significant, because we started the program, or at least a few moments ago, we're talking about Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths self-evident. All men are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. The third sentence of the Declaration says that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. They're telling us that the principal business of government, from the view of the Founding Fathers, was to secure to every man, woman, unborn child their God-given unalienable rights. But those rights only apply to men and women who are created by God. If they can persuade you to believe that you are an evolved man, you don't have access to those rights.
That's a good point.
That's all right, what folks, it's all about.
We have to take a break. We'll be right back with Al and Ask. Resurrect the Republic, Truth Radio broadcast.
This is the most transparent administration in history.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
Texas. Well, I'm flooding down in Texas. All of the telephone lines are down. Yeah, it's a flooding down in Texas. All of the telephone lines are down. Well, I've been trying to call my baby. Lord, I can't get a single sound.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Resurrect the Republic. Truth. Radio broadcast. Resurrect the Republic. Yes. And by the way, folks out there, if you're interested, you can send me an email to rtrtruthmedia@protonmail.com. We're going to be recording some music here in Arizona, in addition to what you just heard. If you guys are interested in getting copies of that, we send them all out free to people that request them. But we would ask if you would go to rtrtruthmedia.blogspot.com or resurrecttherepublic.com. Click on that PayPal, send us some love for our work. Coming up in the coming days, I just had today a very long conversation with Charlotte Iserbeet of Deliberate Dumbing Down of America. of course, Mr. Adask here, I tell you, we're going to have you on quite a bit more. Rye Dawson is going to be joining us. We have so much more coming in the future, so keep an eye out for at rtrtruthmedia.blogspot.com. So anyway, where were we? I hate this. Commercials always break my.
Well, all over the board. I get into this stuff and I start hyperventilating, and I mean, I get so excited about it sometimes that it's hard for me to stay coherent. But I'm going to try to do a better job.
Let's talk to people about them as animals. Now, I'm looking in front of me.
Well, let me tell you the story on how I got into this in the first place, because it may be helpful to understand.
Okay, all right.
A man and a woman, husband and wife, Mr. and Mrs. William Fresnel, were sued by the Attorney General of Texas and the Texas Department of State Health Services back in 2000, starting in 2001. They were sued, and their corporation were sued by, again, Attorney General of Texas for $25,000 per day per defendant.
And who was the Attorney General? Who was the Attorney General at the time? Greg. Folks, conservatives out there, listen very closely.
This is a big story, and what frustrates me is I've had little success at communicating this idea, and it's probably more my own fault than anything else. But they were sued, and they hired an attorney. They hired an attorney for $160,000 from one of the best law firms in Texas. He defended them for a while. They went broke. They went bankrupt. They went divorced. They left Texas for parts unknown.
But the case was over?
No, the case was not over.
No. The case was over?
The manufacture and distribution of a controlled substance, and this controlled substance was colloidal silver.
Colloidal silver, the same thing that has been curing me for I don't know how long. I swear by it. Now, of course, I don't give medical advice. This is just a radio broadcast, but I can share with all of you by personal experience very quickly. I use colloidal silver, and I absolutely I have not taken antibiotics in years. Go ahead.
Well, the case kind of get into a lull, and they weren't going forward. They weren't going backward. There was no decision on it, and they sold some of their equipment and some of their stock, and I don't mean financial stock, I mean their supplies, to a man named Ben Taylor down in Utopia, Texas, and he started manufacturing and distributing colloidal silver. Well, the Attorney General said, "Welcome to our world," and they made Mr. Taylor and his corporation and his trust, he said, you got 3 more defendants. And each one is liable for fines of $25,000 a day, $9 million a year. That's $27 million a year for Mr. Taylor, his corporation, and his trust.
Now, this is a state that is imposing itself, claiming that colloidal silver mineral is a drug. This is very important.
Yeah. And in fact, what happened is, I've been doing radio programs for 25 years, and somebody heard me, and they're a friend of Taylor's, and they said, you ought to call this guy Adask, he might be able to help you. And so he called me up, and one thing led to another. I said, well, I don't know. I don't know. I think I've never looked at this before, but maybe I could be helpful. I don't know. And I volunteered to be fiduciary for his trust. And I did that because Mr. Taylor did not want to speak, and he didn't feel comfortable speaking in public. And I didn't have standing to speak in the context of the case as just a friend of Mr. Taylor's. But if I was fiduciary for the trust, I thought, well, now I have standing. I can get up there and I can talk to the jury and the judge and the rest of that sort of thing.
Brilliant, but whoa.
Surprise, surprise. I said, welcome to our world, Mr. Adask.
And at that point,
I was a defendant.
You were a defendant. We'll be right back after a few words from our sponsors. Resurrect the Republic with Adask.
Welcome to the place of the left's hypocrisy. Little pink houses for you and me. Welcome to the face.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
My name is Don Wiskin, and at 42 years old, I suffered a massive heart attack, lost 35% of my heart to damaged tissue, and was supposed to spend the rest of my life on disability. What did I do? I took Extendivite, a garlic and cayenne mix of 7 herbs which rebuilt my heart and gave me back my life. For over 17 years now, I have made this formula available to you so you don't have to suffer the same thing I did. Clean your blocked arteries and strengthen your heart and boost your natural immune system. I'm 60 years old now and I still work every day. To get your Extendivite, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com. Extendivite is only $69.95 for a 2-month supply of either capsules or liquid.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcast. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield Tactical Bipods. AROutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AROutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
Father of the moon, which fills my sails, flows the sea.
All right, Resurrect the Republic. Truth Radio broadcast. Folks, I do have a little bit of better communications tonight. Just to let you know, I am at resurrecttherepublic.chattango.com. I am in the chat room if you would like to use it, or if you would like to send any questions to our guest, you're willing to do that, or you can call in 1-800-313-9443. And Mike, if you would, in my ear, let me know if we do have a guest that wants to ask a question, because I'm multitasking here. So, all right. So we were discussing the case of which
I volunteered to be a fiduciary and became a defendant. I was a fiduciary for a trust. For the trust that leased a couple of tables and chairs and a couple of computers to the corporation. All right, that's all it was. All right, it wasn't, but I was charged with the manufacture and distribution of a controlled substance. It was a civil suit. It wasn't criminal. It was civil, but nevertheless. And I'm threatened with fines of $25,000 a day, $9 million a year. If this thing had gone badly, I could have been on the hook in theory for $20 million. Right, which I would never have or be able to pay unless I won the Powerball or something like that. So it focuses your mind. You get sued by the Attorney General of Texas, and they're sending us paperwork every 2 to 6 weeks, a nice little file, 3/4 of an inch, maybe an inch thick, and they're sending us certified mail every 2 to 6 weeks. Oh, my God. I mean, it's the sort of thing, what's going on here? Well, they
they talk about other people doing paper terrorism.
Oh, they called me. They said I was, at one point, the Assistant Attorney General said I should be in prison where I belong. I belong in prison because I was clogging them up with all my paperwork. I did one document. They had 3 filing cabinets full of documents. I did one. He's messing with us because he's writing all this stuff. What happened is they said in their own paperwork in the appeal, they said the key to this case is deciding whether colloidal silver is a drug. All right? They said, and I thought to myself, well, if this is the key to the case, then obviously if I can research the concept of drugs and compare it to colloidal silver, if I can point out that colloidal silver is not a drug, then we win. I don't have to pay $25,000 a day, or at least I don't get threatened with fines of $25,000 a day. So I start reading up and looking, and you look at Title 21, Section 321 of the United States Code. And you folks,
I have it up on my computer right now.
No, so do I. And it says the term drug. It says the term subsection G, 21 USC Title 321 G. 1 drug means. And there's an A, a B. Here's B. Articles intended for the use, diagnosis, cure, mitigation, treatment or prevention of diseases in man or other animals.
Wait a minute.
I read that.
Man or other animals?
Yeah, that's what it says. If it said man or animals, man is one thing, animals are different. But when they say man or other animals, it means they deem man to be an animal. All right, if I said a horse or other animals, animals is a generic class, and a horse is an example that fits in that class. Horse or other animals makes perfect sense. Cow or other animals makes perfect sense. Rock or other animals, that doesn't make sense. A rock is not an animal. When they said man or other animals, they mean man is an animal.
Very nihilistic.
I read that, and I thought, my first thought was, why, you idiots, you don't even know how to write. They don't even know what they're saying. They think man is an animal. And then it says, and C, articles other than food. And this is part of the definition of drugs. Section C, articles other than food intended to affect the structure of or any function of the body of man or other animals. Yeah. They said it twice in the same decision. The first time I saw it, I thought, well, they're idiots. The second time I said, oh my God, they really do think of us as animals.
They do.
All right?
Obviously, under law, they do.
And you go through this, they also, the term food, subsection F, 21 USC 320, section 321, subsection F, the term food means articles used for food or drink for man or other animals. Food is defined the same way. The word device is in this list of definitions.
You want to know why we call people
medical devices? Well, yeah. I mean, this is no game, and the reason this is significant is because if you are an animal, you don't get any rights from God. God gave special rights to man because he's made in God's image, and he is not an animal. He is distinguished from animals by the fact that he's made in God's image. If you're an animal, you don't get any of that. If you're an animal, you have no claim on the God-given unalienable rights found in the Declaration of Independence. It says we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they're endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. If you're not a man created by God, you don't get those rights. You have no standing to claim them. If the government can presume you to be an animal, they can kick you around just like a chicken on a Tyson poultry processing plant.
I wonder why atheism is gaining popularity.
Well, here's another one. Here's another point on this. Back in 1935, the Nazis had the 1935 Nuremberg Act, which declared the Jews to be Untermenschen. Unter means under, Mensch means man. It was something like, it meant something like subhuman. It meant animals. It was the cornerstone on which they based whatever followed with concentration camps, mass murder, and genocide was a consequence of that law that declared the Jews to be animals.
Right.
You could kill them all. It was legal to kill the Jews.
But in all fairness, when we were speaking earlier, I also mentioned to you, and I think it resonated a little bit, that under Talmudic law, all goyim are the equivalent of cattle or animals, and in my opinion, it was the Nazis who basically took, in that circumstance, that took their own belief system and flipped it on them.
you're talking about took the Jews. They said, you've been calling us animals, now we're going to call you animals. That may be true. But my point is, anybody who calls you an animal is putting you in great peril. This isn't just a little situation like your mother wears combat boots. All right?
No.
This is a much more profound situation. If once you are legally declared to be an animal, you have no significant rights. And that's the purpose behind this. And it turns out, again, they define drugs. The FDA, this started in the 1906 Pure Food and Drug Act, where that was the first time, so far as I can find, the research we've done, the earliest instance is the Pure Food and Drug Act of 1906. They declared food, they defined food and drugs in terms of man or other animals. It means the FDA is based on the proposition that you people are all a bunch of livestock. It means that the government has been treating us as animals since 1906.
Section 6 of that act, that the term
food and
drug, is used in this act shall include all medicines and preparations recognized by the United States Pharmacopoeia National Formulary for internal external use, and any substance mixture of substances intended to be used for the cure, mitigation, prevention of disease of either man or other animals. This is in, of course, the U.S. Code. It's
a law. They see us as animals. Here's another point. I did radio programs. I used to do them whether they went off on short wave, and we were picked up by people in Europe and picked up by people in Australia. And we had someone contact me from either Australia or New Zealand. I never remember which one. They checked their own drug laws there, and they discovered they also presumed the people to be animals. And someone contacted me from England and claimed to have investigated the drug laws in England and said, my God, they also declined, they define the people to be animals. And what this means, we see it in 3 different countries, it is probably a cornerstone for the New World Order. You want the New World Order, folks? You're going to be livestock. You're going to be just like the Jews in Nazi Germany. All right? This is dangerous business, and it's spiritual warfare. This is not just a situation where we're going to call them animals. No, if you're an animal, you're not a created man. All right? You're not one of the... this is dangerous business and evidence of massive spiritual warfare, and it's really quite extraordinary. You see it, and it's hard to even believe. You begin to understand it, and it's mind-boggling.
Yeah, it is. I mean, this is a direct attack upon our faith, and not only that, but the First Amendment. The First Amendment makes it very clear.
This is an attack, and that was what happened with this case. With this case down in Austin, Texas. Once I realized that their definition of drugs only applies to animals, my one of the lines of defense I threw up there said, "It doesn't apply to me. I am a man made in God's image as per Genesis 1:26 through 28. And that belief is second most important principle in the Bible, and it's guaranteed you can't mess with it without crossing my freedom of religion.
And you have
I am free to believe that, and they went dead silent. We'd been getting letters from them every 2 to 6 weeks, certified mail, fat file, the rest of that. They went dead silent for 5 months. And then they came back, and we fooled around with them. They just dropped the case. They simply stopped. They didn't say goodbye. They didn't say it's been nice talking to you. They didn't say you guys are so smart we can't beat you. They just dropped the case.
We hold these truths to be self-evident.
After they had invested 6 years and nearly $500,000 in that case. And they just dropped it.
And by a so-called Christian conservative attorney general. Charlotte Iserbeat points this out, that a lot of these so-called Christian conservatives, neoconservatives, are really not conservatives at all. But I think even the attorney general Abbott at that point didn't want to play with that fire.
You couldn't, because I looked at this and I thought to myself, these guys can't want to face this in public. They can't want this to go in front of a jury where we're going to explain to the jury. Here's the Assistant Attorney General, Raul Noriega. He was the guy who was handling this specific case. Greg Abbott was Attorney General, the Assistant Attorney General, Raul Noriega. He was handling the case. He'd been there for 22 years, and he had a Mercedes-Benz that was supplied by the government. They couldn't give him a Ford or a Chrysler. They gave him a Mercedes-Benz to drive around in. He's handling the case. But he's going to have to convince a jury that it's okay to treat them all like livestock. He's going to have to convince the jury that it's okay to treat the people the same way the Nazis treated the Jews. This is an untenable proposition.
Or the way the Jews treat the Goyim.
Well, it's the same.
Oh, isn't it funny how certain ideologies, they love to turn the other into animals, and this is. I mean, it's funny, but it's not. This is genocidal.
Yes, that's what it is. This is an act of genocide. And some people say more radical talk. No, it's not. You can go to genocidewatch.org or .net. I don't remember the last.
It's .com
suffix.
Now. They switched
is
to
it
.com.
.com?
Yeah.
Did they? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, in any case, there is a document that you can find. I can't tell you exactly where to find it. It'll be listed, at least it used to be listed in one of the tabs up at the top of the page. And it'll be something like documents, or I don't know what they call it. But there's a document in there including the 10 stages of genocide. It used to be 8 stages of genocide. Now it's 10 stages of genocide. Number 3, might be number 4 now. I don't remember how it fits in. And it is an act, a recognized act of genocide when you call a particular group insects, vermin, or animals. All right? This is genocide being perpetrated against the American people by the government of the United States. And you can take a look at our prison population, biggest in the world. 70%. Last time I heard, I don't know what it is today, but 70% last time I heard of the people in federal prisons are there on drug-related crimes.
Oh, yeah.
Every one of those people are there on the
drug war.
Big. Yeah,
the war
on drugs.
Declared war on drugs is actually a genocide against the people.
That's exactly right. Let me give you another one. There are billions of dollars of profits that are being made by big pharmaceuticals. All of that is based on drug laws that define their products to go to animals. It's part of the reason why they have special drug courts. If you get a vaccine and it cripples your child, well, you go to a special drug court, and if you're lucky, you might get $25,000 out of them or whatever. But they are protected in large measure because they are giving the drugs to animals.
Wow.
This is a big situation. This is a big insight. This is not just, isn't that interesting? Wow. Billions of dollars are involved in this. Thousands of people going to prison are involved in this. Right? The drug war lays the foundation for the modern police state.
Yes.
If you can end the drug war by saying, look, you can't treat us like animals, all right, what happens to the police state?
It crumbles.
Well, I understand.
Or a good part of it does. A good
chunk of it does. And
this
is why I get
of martial law in there, but that's a whole nother.
Another story entirely. But that's why I start hyperventilating over this thing. This is not just a curious little incident. This is something big.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like how mainstream sources have called this your ideology or your beliefs. I'm looking at it in law. Look, my father was a judge and a lawyer, okay? And the reason that I was able to see the 14th Amendment for what it was because I can understand that including also means not limited to. There's a whole all of the legalese that goes into this. But when you showed this to me, and I was reading this, and I just could not believe that they referred to man and other animals.
Yeah, no. It's right there for a century.
I had to take a walk in circles out in my yard, just grasping, letting that absorb into my brain for a minute. Wow.
So far as I know, I'm the first man to read the law and realize what it meant. First layman. I mean, the people who wrote it have to understand what this is. But I'll bet you the average congressman has no clue to what I'm talking about.
No, of course
they don't know what's going on here. There's a handful of wicked bastards who are trying to pervert this country, and this is close to the heart of the war that's been waged against us, the war that's been waged against this country in order to support a new world order.
People all over the world.
I agree.
My God. And, this isn't, it's not that far of a leap. Folks, you out there listening, do you consider yourself an animal?
You can't. It's dangerous.
Yeah.
If you're an animal, you can be butchered, for God's sake. They can march you off into a concentration camp that's no different from a slaughterhouse for cows and pig and sheep and goats.
Well, that just opens up the whole concept of human trafficking and child sexual abuse, and because they're just animals. It's just bestiality.
Well, it's also part of the reason why they can restrict you from having, they define these drugs in terms of man or other animals, but the regulation that flows from them can keep you from getting some of the drugs that you think you need. So, you can't get that.
Yeah, folks, we'll be right back after a few words from our sponsors. My mind's pretty blown. Don't know about yours. We'll be back. Resurrect the Republic, Truth Radio broadcast.
Everything you earn by breaking your backs, we're gonna redistribute when we make our pay tax. Hey, sit down, don't be a jerk.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Many people tell us about their experience with Extendivite. Just listen to what Glenn has to say.
Prior to taking it, I had diabetic neuropathy. The Extendivite reduced that significantly. Acid reflux was reduced. I had athlete's foot, very severe. Trimmed that down to about 75%. Dandruff, almost completely gone. I had occipital neuralgia at the base of my skull. I was having migraines, reduced by about 90%. Heart palpitations, my heart would kind of stall out. I would skip a beat. Very uncomfortable. And when walking from downstairs going to sleep, by the time I got to the bedroom, which is just one flight of stairs, my heart was pounding, coming out of my chest. My vision was blurry. This completely solved that problem. Great product. Thanks.
Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Welcome back. right, folks, I'm back. Resurrect the Republic. All right, so we have, Al, we have some callers on the line that I don't want to make wait any longer. God bless them. Folks, try and stick to topic as best as you can. Thomas from Montana. Thomas, you're on. Resurrect the Republic.
Oh, good evening.
Good evening.
I just have a simple, I have actually a couple of questions. Number one is, what takes priority in American law, natural law or statutory law?
Well, I could
go ahead.
Yeah, under the topic of sovereignty, any law that wouldn't violate the original tenets, the restrictions, the powers that we gave them, and the restrictions we placed upon them. There's many statutory laws that violate those, or that violate, say, your faith, for instance. One of these laws, like the law that you're seeing right there.
Actually, my question was, what takes precedence? What is the priority?
Probably the natural law.
Or statute.
See, this is one of the questions, and it's a big fight that's really going on here. It's what this is all about. If we are we the people, the sovereigns in this country? Do we run this country, or are we livestock that are subject to whatever the government wants to do? Who is the boss? Who is the boss? That's the question. And there's a struggle going on. Government doesn't want to be our servant. It wants to be our master. All right? And when we talk about
that struggle was resolved in the convention. And even before then with the Declaration of Independence, because that established the laws of nature and nature's God.
Well, I get you, but the Congress
we get that.
Congress doesn't want that.
So
the government doesn't want that. They say that's very nice, but we don't believe in that crap because that means the people are sovereign. We want to be sovereign. We want to be the rulers, and the people can be our subjects.
That was the entire point.
But this is where we are today.
The point I'm trying to make here is the Creator wrote the law of nature. And Congress doesn't fit. It doesn't matter what Congress's opinion is. Congress is trying to play God. They're usurping the authority.
And they're getting away with it because the public doesn't understand what's going on.
Right. So maybe we should be framing the discussion in the criminal conduct of Congress.
No, it's not just criminal. It's treasonous. It's treasonous, and it may be satanic. It's wicked.
Yeah, it's wicked, but it's also Thomas. It's also you have to also understand that written into the Constitution is the consent of the you can give up your rights. You can do so by your own accord. Ever hear the term? Do you waive your rights? Or what?
Under natural law, you cannot do that.
Well, I disagree. You can sell your soul to the devil at any time. Folks, I have to cut you off right there. We're going into break. Folks, we'll be right back. Resurrect the Republic, Truth Radio broadcast. Thomas, hold on to the line. We'll be back into the second hour.
Interested in photo ops.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Because you can handle the truth.
Resurrect the Republic, Truth Radio broadcast on RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth. Welcome back, folks. Resurrect the Republic. I'd like to start off the second hour with a quote. Now, keep in mind, this is just a quote. This is not directly, written into our documents, but this is from Thomas Paine. He said, "Government, even in its best state, is but a what? A necessary evil." That's a little shakes me a little bit. In its worst state, an intolerable one. And I would like to submit to you, Thomas, if you're still on the line there, I'd like to submit to you to consider that the consent of the governed, whether or not natural law is the ruling law, you have the free will to give up your rights, to waive your rights, and to submit to what I consider evil. I would recommend that people don't.
Well, I have another quote by Samuel Adams that goes directly into what I was referring to. Forgive me, I'm looking that up at this moment. And it flies in the face of that, because you got to understand that the Creator has a character. All right, He has a character of righteousness, and for anyone to insist, well, let me go ahead and quote it. "It is the greatest absurdity to suppose it in the power of one or any number of men at the entering into society to renounce their essential natural rights or the means of preserving those rights, when the grand end of civil government, from the very nature of its institution, is for the support, protection, and defense of those very rights, the principle of which, as is before observed, are life, liberty, and property. If men, through fear, fraud, or mistake, should in turns renounce or give up an essential natural right, the eternal law of reason and the grand end of society would absolutely vacate such renunciation. The right of freedom being the gift of God Almighty, it is not in the power of man to alienate this gift and voluntarily become a slave."
Wait a second. Now what you just hold on a second. But what the slight difference is involuntarily and voluntarily. I would agree with you that it would be evil, it would be wrong, it would be immoral to involuntarily do so. But each individual has, if you don't have freedom, what do you have? You also have the freedom to submit yourself to whatever it is that you choose to submit yourself. That's part of the consent.
He just pointed out in this quote that you cannot voluntarily become a slave. That's what he said here.
You can. There's proviso in the Bible. Proviso in the Bible.
No.
Back here to a doorpost. And
I follow natural law. I'm not following the Bible. I haven't followed the Bible now for 3 years, and that's not to say that there's not truth in the Bible, but I think that mankind under the Quran And under the Western scriptures, mankind
I couldn't care less about the Quran, but yeah. That's not the law of this nation. The law of this nation is the Holy Bible, is the premise of the Holy Bible. That's, so anyway, it's I understand in what he's trying to say. I just disagree with his premise. We could absolutely voluntarily submit to Satan if we so choose. Damn yourself to hell.
The whole
Damn
idea
yourself to hell.
behind Christianity is that you get to choose.
Yes, that's the
choose
whole,
this day who you will serve, God or Mammon. All right, the idea, that's the fun. You get to choose. Do you want to follow the Messiah? Fine. Don't want to follow him? That's okay too. You get to choose.
Right.
All right. And depending on your choice, it's going to have a lot of impact on what happens to you after you pass on.
I agree. But to assume that you can't, well, if that were the case, then everybody would just go to heaven, wouldn't they? If you could not voluntarily, anyway, we'll go down that route. Anyway, we have Jim in Missouri. Jim in Missouri, you're on Resurrect the Republic. Jim in Missouri, are you with us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Jim.
Okay.
You're on with Tom and Al.
I'm enjoying the conversation. I will have to say, Tom, that I agree with Al more because there's a caveat in there, and the caveat is, you can voluntarily do it, provided that you're given full knowledge of what's happening, and that does not occur. We're getting into these hidden contracts that we don't know anything about.
Well, I would. Yeah. Let me posit a theory to you. If these open contracts are published and they're put out for the public to see, right? That's just like the sheriff's office before they claim somebody's home, they have to post it in the newspaper. It's a maxim of law. They have to announce what they're doing. It's in my opinion, it's our due diligence to care enough to inform yourself that these things are going on. And just like Al has exposed here with this law that says man and other animals, it's published. Anybody has access to this.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
The problem is, and this is what my wife told me a long time ago. She says they always have to announce themselves, because if they don't announce themselves, what your point that you're making right there, you would be absolutely correct. But they have published this in the public square. They've let you know. It's up to you whether you can understand it or not, whether you take the time to research it or not.
Yeah, but there's the one thing about it. But the one thing about it is they're pumping out laws. I mean, a truckload a day practically. I may be exaggerating, but just the same. Very difficult for the average man to just read every law that's coming out and maintain and understand it and be informed, and they have to appreciate that. Against us say, well, we published a truckload of laws, and you've got your notice on them, and now you have to obey it, or we'll throw you in jail or kill you or whatever we're going to do with you. You can't read all the law. And you should be able to read just the organic law, which would be the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, Articles of Confederation, and Northwest Territorial Ordinance. If you could read that much and understand it, and you could look at the law like this, man or other animals, you could say, that can't be the law. That's a violation of the people's law, the organic law. All right, and that's the people's law. This is the government's law. They say you're animals. The organic law says, no, we get our rights from God. Who the boss? Who the boss?
Yeah, and I have to announce to our callers that call in real quick. I don't want to make them think that they're being censored. Folks, if you're going to call into a radio show, you need to have your devices set. You need to have you can't be whacking your microphone. You can't be driving down the road with wind blowing into your microphone. All of that other noise. I've said this before. Please, please, please get yourself to a quiet location. Sit still. Hold your microphone so that you're not destroying the broadcast, because other people, they hear that noise, they start dropping off. This is going to be archived, and people don't like to hear that. So please, For those of you that have called, if you want to call back in after you've gotten yourself to a quiet location, please feel free to do so. I don't censor anyone. I don't want to make you think that you're censored, and I don't want to make you feel as though you're disrespected, because I respect your opinions. Just because you may disagree with me or whatever, you're still welcome to call into the show. I don't want to make you think that you're censored in any way. So if you can get yourself to a quiet location, I would appreciate it. That being said, are you there?
Am I quiet?
Is that Jim?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you are. Yeah, you're nice and quiet now. There was a whole lot of noise. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Anyway, yeah, that's the deal. Like, they passed these laws back in 1913. Well, I was born in 1963. How am I expected to go all the way back through all the Federal Register and everything to find out all this stuff? No, it should be readily available today. It's not. And just like Al said, they're still piling more and more and more on, and it's impossible to keep up with it. Anyway,
well,
that being said,
I understand your point. It's a good point. It's a very good point.
Well, that being said, I wanted to congratulate Al on the finding in that court case, because I did hear about that. And also, Al, I just wanted to say hi to you when you were unlawfully held in Missouri.
Yep.
Our mutual friend Dave picked you up, and I was the guy that delivered. And I was the guy that delivered the groceries. To try to fatten
All right. Well, that goes back. We're talking 13 years ago.
Well,
hard to believe, but yeah, we're talking 13 years ago.
Thanks for that, Jim.
And I will say, if anybody had ever seen a picture of Al before that incarceration, I saw him in the flesh afterwards, and it was not a pretty picture. They tried to starve him out.
No, they didn't starve me out, but I was exercising in there and the rest of that sort of thing. And they don't feed you enough. I mean, they feed you in 8 hours. You get all your food is in 8 hours a day. It's 16 hours without any food. It's interesting. But it was a great blessing.
Hey, I'm glad to hear you're back, Al. Missed you. And,
well, I've been back for 13 years now, but I've been doing radio programs other places and blah blah blah. But thank you. I appreciate the blessing. I appreciate you remembering me.
Yes, and I thank you too.
Awesome. I was glad to be part of it. So appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jim. All right, we have Richard in Alabama. Richard.
Hi. Am I on?
You are, Richard. You're on Resurrect the Republic.
Okay. Oh, forgive me for changing the subject, but on the Form 1040, there's a dollar sign, and the dollar sign has been redefined recently to mean a unit of conditional credit. Is there a resource, a citation, a book, or some way to prove this if I had to prove this to someone?
You mean, is there a way to prove that it's on the form? Do you mean it's a way to prove what the meaning of the dollar sign is? What do you mean?
To prove that it's no longer a dollar, but a unit of conditional credit.
Oh, it hasn't been a dollar for a long time. You understand what the original
dollar
sign? You understand what the original dollar sign was?
Yeah.
It was a U superimposed over an S. It was a U superimposed over an S, as in the United States. The U was superimposed over the S. Over time, they eliminated the little curve at the bottom of the U, and we had two vertical lines superimposed over an S. That was this dollar sign for gold and silver and real money.
Yeah.
What we've had for most of my lifetime is we've had a dollar sign with a single vertical line going through the S. And that's evidence of fiat money, and they've got a new definition that they're talking about apparently. And I'm not sure.
Where can I find it?
Well, I don't know. You're bringing the information to me. It's the first I've heard of it.
I've heard that it's in the Banker's Book of Federal Reserve Regulations.
That's probably a good place to look for it. It's probably only
I can't find
about the
it.
size of a phone book.
I can't find it anywhere. It's not even on the internet.
Well, we'll check into that. But if you find it, let us know. We're not aware of it. But it hasn't been a real dollar in a long time. We all know that.
No,
we all know that.
But if I wanted to argue with the point with someone, I would need a citation, right?
Yeah.
Well, you want evidence. You know, it's like we could talk about man being an animal in the government's perspective, and it doesn't mean a thing unless you can say, look here. Here is where you can find the law. Not something I wrote, not something Tom wrote. This is where you can find the government wrote this.
Yeah.
They're not making it up.
I prefer to send people back to, people that have listened to this show for a long time know that all of the research that we put out is not based upon our opinion. It's based upon government documents that we went back into the congressional record and read and found and extracted and provided in links. I urge anybody out there, Google Reconstruction Replacement Government, and you'll find a zillion. The problem is, the thing that frustrates me is people will read our research, and the few people that have tried to refute it, they'll read it and they'll say, well, that's just your opinion. And I'll ask them, well, did you open up the links and did you read the links? Oh, now they're pages of material. Okay, well, if you want to remain ignorant, not you, but if they want to remain ignorant to the facts, if they don't want to actually read it for themselves, then they can't assert that we're positing an opinion. We're providing them with the evidence from the government's own records. And the thing that frustrates me, like with the missing 13th Amendment, my wife went into the Texas State Library and photographed the ratified Virginia Annotated Code, stamped, sealed by the Texas State Library, Sam Houston Library Constitutional Research Center, has photographs and video of it, but people are still refuting that it ever existed. It's frustrating. It makes me want to beat my head into the wall.
I wrote a book on the missing 13th Amendment. And
Did you really?
Yeah, at the time, when we wrote the book, Tom Dunn and David Dodge discovered the information.
Oh, I know. David Dodge, yeah.
Yeah, they discovered it in an old library in Maine. They, through just strange circumstance, they got an old book, and it had this 13th Amendment, and it wasn't the 13th Amendment they'd ever heard about before.
Right.
And where did this come from? Well, Dodge went around the country, and he found, at the time, he brought the research to me, and he had 26 states and territories that at one time or another had published this, what has come to be called a missing 13th Amendment. They'd published it as a valid amendment to the Constitution. And it happened over a period of something like 40 years. This went on. And no one carried it for the whole 40 years, but it'd be there for 5 years here and 10 years someplace else. But it was an extraordinary story because if it was just a mistake, all right, somehow the people got some dumb idea that this 13th Amendment had been ratified and it's all nonsense, then it should be something we saw on the TV game shows. And they say, and Tom, for $25, what was the amendment that was published improperly on the Constitution from 18...
Oh, yeah, but they can't have...
It's not just disappeared. And here's what else. David Dodge went back to the same archives a few years later that he'd found the documents in the first place. They had all been cleaned out.
Gone. Yeah.
Reference to the 13th Amendment is no longer there to be found.
Folks, my YouTube channel got terminated with all of our documented evidence of our recording of the 13th Amendment. All of it got wiped out. You want to know what this is serious, very serious. This is very serious because that missing 13th Amendment, which I call the Anti-Foreign Association Amendment, you want to talk about strangleholds of foreign associations, dual citizenship, all kinds of things, titles of nobility. It covers the gambit of people that were involved in government that had any kind of dual citizenship or foreign allegiance, emolument.
It was more important than that.
Oh yeah, but if that's one angle.
What it was about, I can't remember what the text of the amendment was anymore. I haven't looked at it in a decade, probably. But what it was about was it meant that you could not pass a law that would grant a title of nobility. That's prohibited. It's still prohibited in the Constitution right now, but there is no penalty associated with it in the Constitution. This 13th Amendment said if you do pass, anybody gets a title of nobility, they forfeit their citizenship.
Yes. Well, if they forfeit their citizenship, they cannot be a representative member of government.
That's right. They can't hold a government job.
All right, folks, we'll be right back after a few words from our sponsors, Resurrect the Republic, Truth Radio broadcast.
This is the most transparent administration in history.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, keep it today.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
Quite clear.
Welcome back. Resurrect the Republic Truth Radio broadcast. Folks, you know how frustrating it is even more. I used to be able to bring this up so easily. The 13th Amendment, the original 13th Amendment. My computer just does not like this amendment. It has a hard time opening it up. But those of you that have listened to the show know well about this subject, and this is what I call the subversion or the replacement of our history. We're not revisionists. You know, people like to say that people who bring the truth forward are revisionists. We're only revising lies, is what we're doing, and that's a fact. These things have been perpetrated upon the public. You know, I have a journal of the Senate in 1810. It was a copy of it sitting right in front of me. If any citizen of the United States shall accept, claim, receive, or retain any title of nobility or honor, or shall without the consent of Congress accept and retain any present, pension, office, or emolument of any kind whatever from any emperor, king, prince, or foreign power, such person shall cease to be a citizen of the United States, small c. And keep in mind, this was before the 14th Amendment citizen. Okay, so this was a citizen of your state, of the Union Compact under the Constitution, and shall be incapable of holding any office of trust or profit under them or either of them. This was passed in 1810. No big mistake that in 1812, Rothschild's army, or the British Army, marched into Washington, D.C., and burned everything but the British Patent Office down to the ground. Drops mic. Al?
The magic word there was honor, to my mind. And what honor meant
yes, Your Honor.
Remembering this now, kind of. But what honor meant back then, if you had an honor, it was defined as an advantage or privilege that one person or one group of people had as compared to another group.
You mean like modern day policing?
Sorry. I mean like special interest legislation.
That too.
This was the most powerful amendment that was probably ever proposed for the Constitution. It would have, if government can't pass special interest legislation and say, tell you what, we're going to take money from this group over here and we're going to give it to this group over here, all of that income redistribution, that would be an honor. One group has the advantage of receiving the money, the other group has the disadvantage of paying the money. It would have terminated special interest legislation. Congress would only be able to pass laws that applied to everyone equally. Which means Congress could come down, they could have Congress maybe a month, 6 weeks every year, and the rest of the time they could go home. They wouldn't have to be here because they could only pass laws that were as applicable to the people in Maine as they were to the people in Arizona.
Right.
And if there just aren't many laws that's going to satisfy everybody. I mean, they're going to go play golf, fool around for a while, raise a little money, and go home.
Yeah. Yeah, they pass laws that don't apply to them even now these days.
I understand. Which is another title of nobility.
Yes. Yes. Yes, absolutely. This was a very, very, very powerful amendment.
And it was an extraordinary story because what it hinged on is whether or not, I think it was Virginia, they needed, I'm trying to remember, I don't remember the numbers, they needed, I believe, if 9 states out of the 13 that were there at the time, or thereabouts, but they had to have, I think, 9 states ratified. And 8 definitely did. And the question was whether or not Virginia ratified. And what Virginia did is apparently they didn't. There's not a document where Virginia said, yep, we ratified. But what they did is they published copies of the Constitution in Virginia, and they sent them to Washington, Jefferson, people in Congress.
The Virginia Annotated Code.
This is the way they announced that they had ratified what is now called the missing 13th Amendment. Now, did they ratify, did they not? I don't know, but there was no time limit at that time. All right?
No, I would...
In theory, it could be resurrected even today, but you'd have to get, 2/3 or 3/4 of the states to vote for it in order to get it ratified. But
not if it was lawfully ratified at the time. And we have evidence. We do have evidence as early back as 1868 of all kinds of hijinks that were meant to just to pass certain legislation. So, I mean, for Virginia annotated code, for them to publish it would lean to the evidence that they did. Folks, we'll be right back. Resurrect the Republic, Truth Radio broadcast. Oh, thank you, Al, for joining us tonight. We'll be right back, folks.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read a few from Amazon.com. Dr. Sam Serino reviewed the Extendivite product. Good ingredients, feeling much better since taking product. It seems that the tablets work well. Once again, thank you for your product. My acid reflux has really improved thanks to the Extendivite. Together with my thumb joints, the pain is gone and I'm able to grip things much better. My friend has peripheral arterial disorder and their lower legs were hurting in a red color, but thankfully there has been a significant improvement. Kind regards, Janice. My husband feels a big difference using Extendivite. Thank you. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Texas. Well, I'm flooding down in Texas. All of
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Resurrect the Republic. It's Adask. Oh, I tell you, I look forward to the future, my friend. I really do. It's been a real pleasure to have you here. You know, I wanted to make mention of Representative Tremblay. What was it, Rhode Island or New Hampshire, I believe it was. She convened a panel of people who came and gave evidence of the ratification of this amendment.
Yeah.
And she tried having it reintroduced, and they called her, all kinds of names. They called her crazy. They called her loony.
Did they call her a Trump?
I think worse, they just kind of dismissed her, and the shame of it was that all the while she was right. In my opinion, she was, not only was she right, she was the most right individual in all of her body, and she was trying. God love her. She was trying to honor what she felt was her obligation to the people.
Yep.
And
how long was she reelected?
I don't believe so.
I can remember there's a guy up in Oregon, and I don't remember his name right now. This goes back 10, 15 years ago. He was, I think he ran as a Republican, and he got elected. All right? And he was going to be one of these people who were going to change Congress and do the right thing and the rest of it. Mm-hmm. Republicans conspired with the Democrats to make sure he was not reelected. Their own people, their own party, his own party conspired to keep him, deprive him of reelection.
Oh, a bread and circus.
I mean, this whole thing is a terrible mess, terrible situation, and you can see some of this can be an illustration of what's happening to Trump to some extent. I mean, Trump makes some interesting mistakes on his own, and he's got a problem with women that's severe.
Yeah.
But a lot of what he's getting
It's
is
irrelevant.
just black because he's trying to push the system in ways the system doesn't want to go. And he's getting a big dose of what you're talking, the woman you're talking about got a little dose of.
Yeah.
They're running this government for their own benefit, not to serve the people, but to exploit us.
Yeah. I mean, I wish I were convinced, though, that he was... I don't know. That opens up so many cans of worms. With Trump, because I mean, Trump has associations that are very disturbing to me. However, he's done a lot of things that I really like. I really appreciate. I don't pay attention to the mainstream. I look at the mainstream media as an absolute bread and circus. I mean, when you really track down some of the allegations, yeah. When you track down some of the allegations they're making, they're going, and they will go nowhere because they have no traction.
But they don't seem to even care. They just keep on telling it and telling it and telling it and telling it, and people finally say, "Okay, I'll believe the shape of the globe is actually his cubicle." All right, keep telling me. Finally, you just kind of fold under the weight of the constant lies.
Yeah. It reminds me of a quote by Plato. "Strange times are these in which we live, when old and young are taught falsehoods in school, and the person that dares to tell the truth is called at once a lunatic and a fool."
Oh, yeah.
What a quote, huh?
Yep, absolutely. But it shows you something. There's nothing new under the sun. We aren't going through something that hasn't happened before, although... the details are different than from what we've seen in the past. But once again, lies are predominant. I don't know. Special interests are predominant. Corruption. It's all here, but it's been here before. This isn't the first time this has happened.
Well, I tell you.
And on one level, maybe we'll get out of this alive. I don't know.
You know what gives me hope? It gives me hope. People like Rudy and Aaron Davis. People like that give me hope. I don't know if we can save this or not, but through this process of trying to do so, I have met the most absolutely amazing people. And, I know that it speaks in the Bible of remnant. I have, some of the times I think, if for nothing else we're doing this, it's bringing together such a wonderful group of people. And of course, there are morons in every crowd, but it's bringing together such a strong and powerful group of people that, I don't know, call me a little bit sentimental, but my hope is not extinguished.
No, my hope is not extinguished. Again, my job is not to win. My job is to stand firm to the end. That's the way I see my obligation. Other people might see theirs a different way. Like I said, that's a verse that resonates with me. Other people may find other verses that resonate with them more so than this one. I don't know, but I figure I'm trying to stick it out to the end of the game.
Yeah. Do you know when the? Now, I'd say that the original 13th Amendment we were talking about a little while ago was purged from D.C., I believe, in 1812. But do you know that copies of that 13th Amendment were being destroyed, and of course up into modern times, but most specifically up into 1876? Very
that would be about the time that the last state to publish its state or territory. It might have been Montana or Wyoming, I don't remember. But they published it, that they were the last one to publish it, and it was in the vicinity. Yeah. It would have had to been right after the Civil War, and it created some confusion because, what they did is they published the missing 13th Amendment as the 13th Amendment. They published the modern 13th Amendment as the 14th Amendment, and they published the 14th Amendment, modern 14th Amendment, current 14th Amendment, as the 15th Amendment. It shows a level of confusion for sure. It's one of those things where, people couldn't even agree on what the amendments were. There was a point in time, and it says something about the communication system and
the hypocrisy too. No record. They say no record was found in the state of Connecticut, for instance, that ever acted to either accept or reject the original 13th Amendment. Yet, it was published in 3 separate editions of the public statute laws of the state of Connecticut. And if anybody understands anything about the 14th Amendment, it never had the president's signature on it, yet Presidential Proclamations 6 and 7 ordered it booked and published and was issued by Secretary of State William Stanton at the time. And that they claim that action made the 14th Amendment lawful, yet the same action for the original 13th Amendment they're claiming doesn't. It's like having
I understand
A and B, and you can't have A doesn't equal B.
I get you exactly what you're saying, and they look you straight in the eye, and they tell you 2 different things, contradictions, and they don't have enough honor, integrity, whatever, to be ashamed of their lies. It's obvious to people who see what they're doing and say, "You sure are a liar," and they say, "Yes, I am, but so what?" And they get away with it because the public doesn't hear, doesn't know, doesn't understand, doesn't care.
Yep.
There's the problem.
Yep.
People say you get the government you deserve.
Oh, yeah.
And I think there's a point to that. There's a point to that. We have failed. You can point a finger at congressmen and senators and presidents and judges, and I do. But just the same, truth of the matter is the primary fault is with us. We haven't been diligent. We haven't been reading and studying and trying to learn what's going on. We're watching Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah.
It's going to bite us.
Mark Dice has walked out there and asked people different questions about our nation's history.
Yep.
And I've watched some of his videos, and it's just like, uh-oh is beyond uh-oh. It's these people are absolute. It's like watching the movie Idiocracy. I don't know if
I understand that. I've seen it.
Oh my God. These people are just Tide Pod eating, purple hair dyed wackadoodles. And, I also wanted to mention one other thing.
But that's too easy to get away with people who to criticize people who dye their hair.
I know.
I understand that, but a lot of these people that they do this, they look like they work at the bank. They look credible. They have, and I'm sure they think of themselves as normal people, and they're okay, and they're not ashamed of their ignorance.
No, they're not.
And
one of the other things I wanted to bring up, Colonel Edward Mandell House, very interesting. It's the first evidence found of our current social policies, financial, legal system, were deliberately designed by design to enslave humanity. In other words, turn them into human capital or otherwise animals. In a private meeting with Woodrow Wilson, U.S. President, 1913-21, Colonel Edward Mandell House predicated the banksters' plan to enslave the American people, and he stated as follows: very soon every American will be required to register their biological property, that's you and your children, by the way, in a national system designed to keep track of the people, and that will operate under the ancient system of pledging. By such methodology, we can compel people to submit to our agenda, which will affect our security as a chargeback for our fiat paper currency. Every American will be forced to register or suffer being able to work and earn a living. They will be our chattels, property. That's animals to you and me, folks. And we will hold the security interest over them forever by operation of the law merchant under the scheme of secured transactions. Americans, by unknowingly or unwittingly delivering the bills of lading or the birth certificate or however else they choose to track it in the future to us, will be rendered bankrupt and insolvent, secured by their pledges. You ever hear how the public debt is placed upon the backs of your grandchildren? They will be stripped of their rights and given commercial value designed to make us a profit. They will be none the wiser, for not one man in a million could ever figure out the plans, and if they did by accident, one or two should figure it out. We have in our arsenal plausible deniability. After all, this is the only logical way to fund government, by floating liens and debts to the registrants of the form of benefits and privileges. By the way, doesn't make a mention out of God-given rights. This will inevitably reap us huge profits beyond our wildest expectations, leave every American a contributor to this fraud, which we will call social insurance. Without realizing it, every American will unknowingly be our servant. However, begrudgingly, the people will become helpless and without any hope for their redemption, and we will employ the high office of the presidency of our dummy corporation to foment this plot against America. Claimed that this was said by Colonel Edward Mandell House, and if it wasn't, this was published a very, 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 very long time ago, and if it's not accurate, I don't know what is. Your thoughts?
I've heard this. I've heard it before. I've read it before. I don't trust it. I think it's an accurate statement, but I don't trust that House made the statement. And the reason is this. He said this was from a private meeting with Woodrow Wilson. Okay? If it was really a private meeting, which one of them recorded the conversation?
Well, we do have. Is
this coming from House? Did House record this? Or
we have
Wilson recorded it?
No. House, I don't believe House recorded it, and I don't believe that they were the only two present. However, let's look at this just for a moment, because I agree with you. We do not have verification direct that this is legitimate. However, this was published a very, very long time ago, and very much similar to the protocols of the.
What do you think of as a very long time ago?
I believe this was printed about 10 years after the fact.
Well, even so, what's that translate into?
Well, it translates
talking
into
80, 90 years?
Yeah, but if you compare it to what has happened, and you compare it to other things...
No, I agree that the text sounds credible to me. The only thing I'm saying is it's been attributed to House. I don't believe House wrote that down and made it available to the public. I don't believe Wilson made it available to the public. How did we get this?
So either.
How did we get this? You know?
Well, that's a good question. But again, like I was about to say, it's very similar to the protocols of Zion. The people claim to be as a forgery and everything. But if you read the protocols with an open mind, and you don't do it with with any kind of a bigoted mind, if you just read the text of it, and that was printed, God knows how long ago that was printed, 100 and some years ago. But if you read it,
that was part of the reason I asked what you thought was a long time ago, because I don't know how old you are, but I'm 73, And a long time to me is not, I'm sure, not a long time to you. Or
well,
long time
what
to
I
you
mean,
is not
what I mean by a
necessarily
long time, if something is published in year, even if it's 1900, and you look from 1900 to 2018, and everything that was published within the statement, if you say, okay,
I get it.
All of this stuff has come true.
Is accurate.
Right. So if somebody made it up, say something that just came out of left field and somebody made it up, well, that person that made it up would have had to be a prophet. Because they hit the nail right on the head.
No, I get it.
That's all I'm saying.
I get it. It's just I've always thought House would not have written that and made it available to the public. I can't imagine Woodrow Wilson would. You know, if the meeting isn't private, how much are you prepared to reveal in the meeting? Somebody blew the whistle out of that meeting.
Well, Woodrow Wilson had remorse at the end. You know that, right?
Yeah, I know that. Yeah,
on his deathbed, he thought he destroyed his country, which led me to the point where I thought maybe, if anything, maybe he did release it because it was this. Now that's a documented historical fact that Woodrow Wilson felt like he was schnookered, and he really destroyed his country. That's a fact.
Well, I don't know that he necessarily destroyed it, but he impaired it, that's for sure.
Right.
You know, I mean, we are still the 800-pound gorilla. We can make this country do whatever we want to do anytime we want to get up off the couch, but do we want to get up off the couch? We the people run this thing if we care to run it. I mean, we're dealing with a few thousand people that are really causing us trouble. That's all. It's not a big deal.
You know, I like to say to use the Bundy Ranch in Oregon as an example for a reason. That was a very, comparatively to the population of America, we're talking about very small numbers of people comparatively.
Yep.
And a huge national story, national effect, not guilty, case thrown out, dismissed with prejudice. It was with the government that usually secures 98% convictions, and just that little tiny few people.
Yep.
Comparatively.
Yep.
Could you imagine if 10 times the amount of people took a stand?
I understand. I understand. You know, it's like the American Revolution. People say there was only 3 to 5% that were actively supporting the American Revolution. It doesn't take, and the Declaration of Independence is consistent with this. Let me see if I can just find the quote in the Declaration of Independence. All experience hath shown that I'd have to put on a different set of glasses here in order to read it. All experience hath shown that mankind is more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. And there's a point here. They understood this when they wrote the Declaration of Independence. People really don't want to fight. We would rather put up with an endless amount of crapola from the government than actually fight with the government. And it's not exactly that we're afraid of the government, or maybe it is, I don't know, but we don't really want to fight. It is not human nature to go looking for another fight. And, but if we do, if you reach a point where finally people say, all right, you SOBs, here we come. All right, buckle up. We're coming at you. We can handle this thing. We are not helpless. We are not victims unless we just adopt that mindset. Oh, there's nothing we can do. There's plenty we can do. And we can even be effective if we can get enough people to understand that we can be effective. So, but it's always been that way, and it'll probably always be that way, and it'll probably always be a situation where 3 to 5% risk whatever they've got in order to try to do the right thing, and the rest of them just go on with the business of reproducing and fixing dinner and, I don't know, whatever it is ordinary people do on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way the world is. So what do you do? Take it.
You know why I'm open-minded to the, and like I'm like you, I'm not convinced of things like House, but why my mind remains open. You know, some people call it conspiracy theorist. Well, when you've caught the government at so many blatant cover-ups,
yeah, I know,
and lies, at what point does the little boy who cried wolf does not become believed anymore? You know, and I look at the government as the little boy who cried wolf. They have claimed so many things that are not true, and they've covered up so many things that are, that at what point does the American public, even Pew Research, recent Pew Research polls have said something like 60%, 68% of the people don't trust the media, and something like 60 to 70% don't trust Congress, don't trust the government. And then people who are accused of crimes, so-called, in the federal courts, they have to accept responsibility, and part of that responsibility, they have to accept, respect the government. It's part of it is the respect for how do you justify in a court forcing somebody to acquiesce to something that 60 to 70% of the people in an entire country don't respect?
Well, this is where this is where your juries become important. Mm-hmm. And I've heard more than a few stories about the government itself will plant jurors. They'll plant one or two people on a jury just to make sure that everybody else, you get called in for jury duty, you don't know what's going on, and if there's one or two people there who seem to act like they know what they're doing or they're willing to take control, it's probably pretty easy to take control of a jury. And the government allegedly does this on a fairly, occasional, maybe a fairly regular basis. I don't know. I don't doubt that it happens. Does it happen a lot? Does it happen rarely? I don't know. But there's a point here. If you're on a jury, this is important business. All right? You need to pay attention. You need to endeavor to do the right thing and make sure that the other jurors understand this is the right thing to do here. There's a moral obligation. This is not just, let's vote for the, miscongeniality or something like that. This is big. This is big.
Yeah, it is. Usurpations by any one branch of government, powers that are entrusted, are not rendered constitutional by repetition. Who was it that said, if you repeat the same lie over and over and over again, it'll become believed?
That's the way it seems to work, though.
Yeah.
And
I think Goebbels said
there are people, the judges in the Supreme Court and the rest of it say, well, if we got away with it for 20 years, it's a law now. We can't go back. And I don't know that they said 20 years, but there's once something's been established, even if it's a crock of excrement, well, we've been doing it for so long, we can't quit now.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to have to make them quit.
Christiane Hall kind of cracks that open with the final arbiters of the Constitution is not the Supreme Court.
No, I know.
Yeah, she does a pretty interesting presentation on that, and I happen to agree with.
One of the worst cases they ever had at the Supreme Court level was Marbury versus Madison. The Supreme Court says we get to decide what the law means. Who should decide what the law means? The lawmaker. Who is the lawmaker? The people. It should be a jury issue.
Amen. Well, Al, I thank you for joining us tonight. We've run out of time. I could probably talk to you for another couple hours.
Well, not tonight, Tom. Maybe another time.
Yeah, we'll book you back on. It's really great to have you. We're blessed to have you. God bless you, brother, and we'll talk to you soon. Folks, Resurrect the Republic Truth Radio broadcast, rtrtruthmedia.blogspot.com, resurrecttherepublic.com. Hit that PayPal. Show us some love. God bless you.